Perhaps it is within this tangled and inextricable now that I am reimagining someone's smile with a what-if. Comfort is likely a thin veil over an eternal and unchanging law. It does not reveal the source of pain, but simply exists there like air. To lean on that presence, that is, to ruminate. To deliberately entangle in order to bring existence back from absence. For example, emotions change over time. As the phrases of words meet repeatedly, they fray and change meaning. The words someone said on that day, "It's okay," now sound to me like, "It's about to break," that wear and tear. Pretending to comfort, I lie to my memory, knowing full well that I am merely transforming myself into an ideal structure. The deception of borrowing another's warmth to turn my own heart inside out. Still, I repeat. I place a bet. I return to it. I go mad. In the narrow space between twisted, tangled, and intertwined relationships, I deliberately insert perhaps once again. There is no comfort more cruel than certainty. Ambiguity is the sound of truth rubbing against itself. One is called reason, the other is forced into result. To borrowing the cold brilliance of logic, the fate that arranges things as if they were inevitable resembles both a prayer and a curse. Weaving the thread of another's loneliness into the fragile fiber of our own, we create a strange rope of varying thickness that both warms and sometimes constricts the heart, calling it bond. Towards something better, someone whispers. It is nothing more than the trembling of fingers seeking dependence. Without clarity, the hands cease their movement. In this monotonous act of twisting together lies an inexpressible calming effect, carving out a small footprint in the barren wasteland of meaninglessness, called my own work. If it is a puddle that faintly reflects my own face, that is enough. We call it self, history, and love. And perhaps it emits a heat called temporary relief, a sense of comfort. Shadows dance on the surface of distant memories, and a wishful silence drifts there. The momentary afterglow gives us a quietness filled with compassion. Perhaps true comfort does not lie in perfect answers, but in the beauty of imperfection. The gaze that peers into the fundamental depths of the inner world is sometimes sharp, sometimes gentle, gently opening the uncertain door to the future. In this moment where fragility and solidity intersect, our souls are bound together by words imbued with warmth. Sensation is the shadow of perception. Perception is a secondary product of time. Comfort is a mimicry that time itself performs to soothe itself. It is an act in which time consciousness itself places a more on its own irreversibility. More is rather a microscopic distortion of causality that occurs in the gaps of time themselves. There are gaps between events, and humans name those gaps relationships and further twist them into a misrecognition of the past. Imposing is the act of overwriting meaning onto an epistemological void, and the condition that makes this possible is probably the sense of comfort. Yet this probably is not the absence of certainty, but a meta-estimation term that is even self-aware of the illusion that the observing subject is singular. It is this uncertainty that justifies the operation. All impositions are constructs of consciousness that prefer consistency over truth. Beneath the slippery surface we call thought, events have not yet occurred, and the paradox that the very fact of non-occurrence is an event prevails. Thus, comfort is not a description of absence, but rather a fidelity to the very structural premise that absence is possible. And the form of that fidelity crystallizes into the verbal illusion of imposing. A will, as the chaotic reflection of meaning in a non-temporal folded space, requires that the word pain be pre-established in phase space. This space itself is nothing more than a mesh-like grid formed by tense. To place a more over is not merely the repair of a relationship, but rather an erroneous tactile sensation of stroking the wrinkles of time left behind at the primary connection point. It is not accessing memory, but rather imitating the traces that demand the structure of memory. Neither the continuum of the self nor the fixed object of the other is a constant existence, but rather a temporal pattern that interferes with each other. It is not I who recalls you. Recollection assumes a phantasmal causality between the words I and you. And the sense of comfort is a situation in which the point of convergence of recognition is temporarily assumed to have been there in this twisted syntactic field. But that too is a mistake, because the word sensation itself already presupposes an apocalyptic subject structure. It is no longer an objective act, but a non-local simulation of time.